What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another review, and this time we're going to be taking a look at Cape Fear, directed by Martin Scorsese, starring Robert De Niro, Nick Nolte, and Jessica Lange. This is, of course, the remake of the original Cape Fear from 1962. I'm going to do my best to not make this review too long because I can talk about Cape Fear for a good long while. This is my all-time favorite Martin Scorsese movie. This is my all-time favorite Robert De Niro performance/movie. I love Scorsese's remake on Cape Fear. It takes the skeleton of the original Cape Fear movie, but it becomes its own thing. The remake becomes its own thing. When you watch the original Cape Fear and the new Cape Fear back to back, yes, the story and structure is the same, but there are elements that are changed around and are used rather differently. A lot of the dynamics and relationships are changed around and are, to me, are made much more interesting in the remake. So let me break everything down to you the best as I possibly can. The relationship in the remake between Max Cady and Sam Bowden is much more personal, and it's much more of a blood feud. So basically, Sam Bowden was Max Cady's lawyer in the remake, and Bowden had information that could have reduced Cady's prison sentence. But when he found out, Bowden, being a lawyer, but also being a human being, was having a conflict of interest, and he chose to take a more self-righteous route. Instead of doing his job and being Cady's lawyer, he chose to bury a report that said that a girl that Cady had assaulted has a history of being promiscuous. Now, of course, if that information was brought up during the trial, Cady would have had a much more reduced sentence. But since Sam Bowden, buried that particular piece of information, he pretty much sent Cady up the river. And in Cady's mind, he was betrayed by the man who was supposed to help him, betrayed by his own lawyer. That's the foundation of the rivalry between Bowden and Cady in the remake. It's personal. Cady has a personal vendetta against Bowden because Bowden purposefully sold him up the river. And that's where this movie, to me, has a much more darker underline to it, and is a lot more philosophical in a way to it. There's a lot of biblical references all throughout this movie, and it all comes from Max Cady, who was played beautifully by Robert De Niro. When I say this is my favorite Robert De Niro performance, I mean that after seeing every single movie that I can personally see and putting them all together, and this is the one to me that stands out the most. De Niro in this movie, he is menacing. He gets under your skin as to just how settling he really is. There are certain scenes in this movie where he has this intensity in his eyes that just pierces through your soul, and it just makes you feel so uneasy. The whole, laid back southern accent that he puts on Cady is just great stuff. It's great stuff. And his chemistry with Nick Nolte is fantastic. Nick Nolte plays Sam Bowden in this movie, and this Sam Bowden is much different than the Gregory Peck Sam Bowden. Gregory Peck Sam Bowden is more or less a hero, an everyman type of guy. Has well-to-do, has a good family life. The Nick Nolte Sam Bowden, to me, he's much more complex. When you have the Cady element, you also have the element that this Sam Bowden, he's an adulterer. He goes behind his wife's back. He's having an affair. He has a mistress with this woman called Lori that he works with at his law firm. But it's also hinted at that he also has prior moments of adulterism, and of course this has put a strain on his marriage with his wife Lee, played by Jessica Lange, who also puts on a good performance as well. And you got Juliette Lewis, who plays the daughter Danielle, who's very troubled, and we see Max in a very, very intense and just very creepy scene where pretty much Cady seduces Danielle at the school just by getting into her head with his words and what he says. It's great stuff. Great stuff. But yeah, Sam Bowden in this movie, to me, much more complex. He has more character layers. And when Katie goes to attack Bowden in this movie, it's not like the original where people just have a loose connection. These people that Katie attacks in this movie have actual connections. You know, Katie goes after Lori, who is having an affair, who is Sam's mistress. That's a personal connection to Sam. So when Katie attacks, it affects Sam on a personal level because this is someone that he knows. This is someone that he has a relationship with. And when Katie attacks her, it's personal. When Katie attacks the family dog like it does in the original, it's personal. So that's one of the main things that I love about the remake, is that it makes it much more personal. The rivalry is much more personal. The original, it's more or less, you testified against me, I'm going to get my revenge on you. In this one, it's, you were supposed to be my lawyer, you were supposed to help me, and you sold me up the river, you self-righteous son of a bitch type thing. I love it. Love it, love it, love it, love it. Great stuff. This remake is peppered with great stuff. From a technical standpoint, this movie is excellently directed. Martin Scorsese is on top of his game. The cinematography is beautiful. The location shoots, the production design is fantastic. They really captured that southern North Carolina feel with the costumes. You know, DeNiro with his famous Hawaiian shirts that he wears all throughout the movie, on top of the performances. We also get cameos by original cast members. We have a cameo by Robert Mitchum, the original Max Cady, who plays a cop that helps out Sam Bowden. We see Gregory Peck, who played the original Sam Bowden. He has a cameo as a lawyer that is actually on the side of Max Cady after Max Cady gets attacked in a hospital job that was orchestrated by Sam and Kursick. And I want to go on record, Kursick in this movie is what he should have been in the original movie. Original movie, you had 3 separate characters, but the character of Kursick in this movie is pretty much all those characters molded into one, and that's another reason why I love this movie, is because Kursick actually has more to do. He's actually more of a prominent character. He actually has some traits. You know, Charlie Sheevers in the original movie, he was a private eye. Kursick in the original movie was just a cop. And then you had the Martin Balsam character. Martin Balsam also makes a cameo in this movie as a judge, which is great. You also had the Martin Balsam character, who's a friend of Max, who's also police, who's also one of the top cops. But those characters are all molded, are all pretty much combined into one, and we get the Kursick character in the remake, played by Joe Don Baker. Played by Joe Don Baker. And this Kursick, he's given more screen time. He's much more of a character. We get that relationship between him and Sam develop. You know, Kursick is on the side of Sam. They both work together to try and get Katie out of their lives. They're trying to get Katie out of the picture. And Joe Don Baker's performance as Kursick in general, good stuff. I really like it a lot. And I love the scene when Katie kills Kursick. It's a bloody scene, and it just goes. But also just goes to show just how calculating Katie really is, because Katie always finds ways to dance that line on breaking the law and not breaking the law. He's always one step ahead of Sam, but De Niro's Katie is much more. He's much more cunning. He's much more thoughtful. You know, no, the Bowdens. They have this housemaid, and Katie kills the housemaid and goes under and pretty much disguises himself as the housemaid, which is how he was able to infiltrate the house when Kursick has it all booby-trapped. And it's a great scene. And that's how Katie kills Kursick, and near the end, and that's how Katie kills Kursick is under disguise, which is awesome stuff, chilling stuff, also chilling stuff too. I like this. This movie's got so much good stuff in it, man. I'm trying hard to keep it all together because I love this movie so much. You know, because you have like this underlying sexual tension between Max Cady and Sam Bowden's wife Lee. It's very understated, but it's brilliant. But you can pick it out easily. There's like sexual tension there. It's great stuff. At the same time, when he's trying to seduce the daughter Danielle, and he's doing all this to try and break up this family that's already dancing on the thin line of being self-destructive because of Sam Bowden and his prior ways. And then you have the Katie element, which is doing more damage. I like it. It just makes it, again, just so complex. Of course, now, like as in the original movie, eventually the Bowdens, they go on to the Cape Fear on a houseboat, and this, to me, is where my favorite scene happens. So they're on the Cape Fear River. They're on the houseboat. Katie had followed them in a very clever way by hiding underneath their car while they were driving the Cape Fear, which is very, again, it goes into the cleverness of the Max Cady in this movie, how he's always one step ahead of everyone. So they get onto the houseboat, and we get this mock kangaroo trial, which is my favorite scene of this entire movie. It is a great scene where Katie puts Sam on trial for pretty much doing him wrong and selling him up the river, so to speak. And they have this intense brawl in which they beat the shit out of each other with rocks. Eventually, Katie drowns while singing religious songs in tongues. And then the final image of Katie, it's like he's pretty much underneath water, right? From the mouth down, he's underneath water, but his eyes are still above water, and the intense look he gives Sam as he's drowning, it's an image that will stay with you. It's such a creepy, goosebump type image. Beautiful, 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 beautiful. And that is the only way you can end the movie like Cape Fear. Of course, while the houseboat was being destroyed by this really bad storm that was going in, Lee and DeNiro had to jump off the boat, eventually land on shore, they all reunite, and that's the end of the movie. Okay, well, that's all I got to say about the Cape Fear remake. If you haven't noticed, I love this movie so much. I can still talk about this movie. There's so much more I can talk about with this thing. But this review has already gone on long enough, and I'm going to end it right here. Yes, Cape Fear, to me, perfect 10. This is my favorite Scorsese movie, my favorite De Niro movie. I love the remake of Cape Fear. I consider it to be superior to the original version. And I love the original version, but the remake was the one that I saw first, and it's the one that I loved first. So yes, 10 out of 10 for Martin Scorsese's Cape Fear remake. Well, if you've seen this movie, let me know in the comment sections down below. Do you like it? Do you hate it? I would like to know. Also, let me know which version do you like. Do you like the remake, or do you like the original? I would also like to know in the comment sections down below. Like the video and subscribe, and I'll check you back next time for more.